Oki, welcome to episode 3. This is about healing from loss. So, loss is really part of everybody's life. It's universal. There's no one on earth that gets through a life without experiencing loss. Loss is about losing something that gave your life meaning. And grief is the response to loss. So that's the process we go through to heal from a loss. And it's influenced by a number of variables: gender, the type of loss, your own personality, your background, what coping skills you have, things like that. So we don't all do it the same, and we don't all get through it the same or at the same pace. Loss is an interesting thing because the most common loss that we usually talk about is a death. But there's also all kinds of other losses, like a dream. You had a dream something would happen and it doesn't. You thought you'd get a job and you didn't, things like that. So you can think about the stages of loss and the things that we're going to talk about around any type of loss you might experience in your life. One thing about grieving is that it's rough. It's hard. It really, really hurts. And it's hard to get through. But when we heal, we can recover and feel healthy and carry on with our lives. So I'd like to talk about the typical things people go through. So there are stages in grieving that are important to understand because it will help you understand why you're doing things or going through the things you're going through, but it will also help you with someone else around you that might be grieving. So initially, when we're presented with a loss, we have a shock response. We get confused, it doesn't seem real, we can't imagine this has happened, we become quite helpless and not very functional. That initial shock then leads to a phase of denial. Now, this part of grieving is actually quite important because denial gives us a chance to psychologically get prepared and ready to handle this loss. So denial has a good function. However, if people stay in denial for a long time, that can create some problems with actually healing and getting through this loss. Once we've faced that this loss is real, people tend to go into a phase of anger. We might be angry at the person that we lost. We could be angry at the people around us, angry at ourselves because we didn't do something to prevent this loss. The thing about this anger phase that is a bit difficult is that anger tends to push people away. We don't really like hanging out with people that are angry. You need a lot of support when you're going through a loss, so this anger phase can actually prevent you from often getting that support, the support that you need. People often follow that phase of anger with depression. Now, anger can give you quite a lot of energy, so depression is actually the opposite. It drains you of energy. You become lethargic, isolated, not able to carry out daily tasks. People often go between anger and depression, so you can often see a pattern like that. And these phases are very important for letting out emotion. When we're in that stage of depression, we can also experience a great deal of guilt. Guilt is a pretty useless feeling because we can't change the past. We can't make it any different. The last stage in grieving is one of acceptance. So by this point, we've let out a lot of hurt, a lot of sadness, a lot of anger, a lot of fear, a lot of emotion, and we've accepted this loss, and we now become more functional. We're carrying out our day-to-day better. We have a sense of hope. We get into more positive behaviors of self-care. We make plans and we follow through. We can remember the person or think about whatever the loss was without pain. Some of the physical changes that you should be aware of that can happen when you're healing from a loss are things like weakness, being disoriented, memory problems, lack of trust in people, feeling like you don't have control. You can have strong emotions, intense behavior, difficulty sleeping, which is very, very common. Saying and doing things that you would normally never do, which can be kind of frightening because you wonder what is happening to me. Sudden loss is also quite a lot different than an expected loss. So people think, why couldn't I have been more prepared? Why didn't I see this coming? So we often blame ourselves and we blame other people for some of these things that have gone on. And if it's a loss of a person, sometimes we also blame them. So these are all things that are common that happen. So people shouldn't feel like they are doing anything that's abnormal. In fact, it's important to remember that often we do normal things around an abnormal event. It's the event that's abnormal, it's not us. The thing that really keeps people from healing, this is one of the most important things in grief, is the whys. People have whys. Why did that person do what they did? Why did they go where they did? Why did they get that disease? Why did they get sick? Why didn't I get that job? Whatever it is. But the whys go over and over in our brain and we get stuck on them and it prevents us from healing. So if you've experienced a loss, I encourage you first off to answer the whys. You can make your own answer. In fact, it is only your own answer. Sometimes in sudden tragic and horrible, perhaps violent losses, there are a lot of whys, and people can get into arguments about it. That's not the point here, and I really encourage you not to do that. You can answer your own why, and the person that's gone, if that's the kind of loss that it is, can't help us. They're not here anymore. So it's up to us to come up with an answer to those whys. Why did he go out driving that night on those really icy roads? Well, you can come up with an answer to that. You can come up with a reason. If you know that person, you know their personality, you can come up with a reason why that person might have done that. Once you answer whys, the healing occurs in a much more efficient and a much more effective and faster manner. You can get stuck in whys for the rest of your life. So I really encourage you not to do that. So find an answer and live with it. It's your explanation. One thing that also happens is there can be conflict in families when there's a loss because we do not grieve in the same way as each other. We don't do it at the same pace. Someone's stuck in anger, another person's depressed. They wonder, why aren't we behaving the same? Why aren't we feeling the same things? The person that's angry might say, why aren't you mad too? Why aren't you angry? I don't understand it. So we don't do it the same way, so we have to accept that and know each person walks their own path here. So don't be alarmed if you are behaving differently within a family. Also, one thing to remember is that children grieve too and experience loss too, and how they express that is that they usually misbehave and act out. So be patient and understand that children are trying to show us because they can't use their words as well as we can, so they can only show us through how they act. So another thing to think of is that your roles will change if you've lost a loved one. So if you lose a sibling, you lose your brother and that's your only brother or only sibling, you no longer have that role. We can adjust those roles, but that's another loss, right? Because we play out these roles day to day, and then when it's not there, it can really feel hollow and that there's a real emptiness. It's very important to be able to talk about loss. If you've lost someone that you care about and love, it's important to talk about them. Find people that would be willing to listen as you talk about your loved one. Do some storytelling, reflect on events where you enjoyed that person, maybe share pictures, but storytelling's important. And First Nation people are the best storytellers on earth. So that's a great thing to do. Also, try to get into a normal routine as quickly as possible. You know, after a loss, sometimes it's just hard to get out of bed. It's hard to get dressed. It's hard to eat breakfast. Try to get back to what is normal for you as quickly as you can after a loss. Also, allow people to support you and help you. It's always good when someone drops off food. Accept it, enjoy it. Try and eat healthy. Try and get a good night's sleep. And try to avoid drugs and alcohol, because that doesn't allow you to feel, and you do need to feel. Crying is great. Every tear is healing, and you have to let out that emotion. So grieving's hard, let that emotion out. Accept whatever reactions that you have. It's really good to take care of your appearance. One of the things that can really go downhill when we've had a loss is that we just don't care about ourselves, and we're not doing those things. So it's important to have a shower. It's important to get a haircut, whatever it is for you, just good grooming. Give yourself permission to laugh. I think sometimes we think we've had a loss, and if we have a happy moment, we feel kind of guilty. Gee, we shouldn't do that. Laughing is very healing. And I know for sure you cannot be in a group of First Nation people and not laugh. It's just pretty much not possible. So get together with people that you care about, that make you feel good and make you feel safe, and laugh. Remember that how you think leads to how you feel, and that leads to how you act. So trying to shape your thoughts around the loss is very important. Initially, we often think things like, I'm not going to be able to carry on. I won't get through this. I'll never survive. So those thoughts lead to some real feelings of helplessness and depression, and the action that comes out of that is that you do nothing. So I would encourage you to think more neutral or positive thoughts. Life will go on. Every day you still get up. Every day you can still do your normal things. I think it's important actually to keep communicating with people that we've lost. So that's okay. Visit their grave, talk to them, just talk to them in your own self-talk, in your brain. It's important to keep connected. And I think First Nation people are very, very good at connecting or staying connected with people they've lost. You might want to write them a letter. You might want to send them a prayer. You might hope or call them to come to you in a dream. All these things keep your experience with that person in you, things in your heart. No one can take away any of your experiences that you've had with anyone. You cherish those and you own those and you hold those. So you can go to those anytime. It's important that you believe you have a future, that you believe that person is still connected to you. You can reach out to particular people in your community. Maybe you have a favorite auntie that's always loved you so much. Go spend time there. Talk to an elder. Maybe you need to talk to a society member. Maybe you find a mentor that can help you get through loss because they have had experience with this. Also, if you're really struggling, it's perfectly positive and great to go talk to a therapist, and you have those resources on the reserve. So I would also encourage you to do that, particularly if you feel quite stuck. One good thing that you can do within your home is to set up a place of honoring a person that you've lost. This is a really good technique for children, but it's just great for anybody. So you would pick a spot and put things there that belong to the person, or pictures of them, or things that they might have given you, or symbols of your connection to that person. And a blanket or a pillow or something that you can sit down on, or that a child would lie on. And anyone can go there when they need to visit that person. They need to feel they're connected to that person. They want to say something to the person or talk to the person. So that's something great that you can do. You need to be very kind and very accepting of yourself, and understand it's a process, and everybody's entitled to go through this process the best way for them. So I hope this information has been helpful, and please feel free to talk with your family about these things, because that can also be extremely helpful and healing. Thank you very much for watching this video today, and I hope you get through your loss in a very positive and healthy way.